Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, Michael K. Vaughan's visit is ongoing. Having a wonderful time. A bit rainy here in Boston today, so that shifted around our plans a little. I also added Lord Ganesha to the video. I knew a lot of you were missing him. We were going to go out and about a kind of a nature-y type day, but it's raining. So we did what all of you would do. We went to a used bookstore, a gigantic used bookstore. The used book superstore.
It's super.
It is actually. Warehouse,
it was huge.
Right? Yeah. I mean, that's where you would put mechanical parts or manufacturing equipment or whatnot. It's just a whole warehouse. And that's all it is. You walk in the door and you are faced with a football field of used books in all kinds of different categories. I went there a couple of months ago with David Murphy, and we went back today and got a ton of stuff. I got a ton of stuff. Michael K. Vaughan is on a 500 book buying ban. He must read 500 books he owns before he buys any. We squeaked by on a technicality.
Yeah.
Because I told him as we were going out, one way around that is for me to buy whatever you want.
It was a brilliant plan.
So what did you get? You only got two things.
I only got two things because I have to carry it back in a carry-on bag. And I've already got stuff. So I got two books. And this first book I've never heard of before, but it's a Fred Saberhagen book, and it's Empire of the East, which apparently is a trilogy, which is all contained in this one book. I guess these three books were originally published separately. What were they? The Broken Lands, The Black Mountains, and Changeling Earth, which came out in 68, 71, and 73. And I've never heard of this book or these books. But Larry Niven says, I think Empire of the East is better than Lord of the Rings, although I admit it's a matter of taste. So I don't think this is going to be better than Lord of the Rings. It's just a suspicion I have. I suspect it's not going to be as good as Lord of the Rings, but it's probably going to be pretty good because that is high praise. And this fellow over here, he who has read all books, says, yeah, it's pretty good. So
that was funny in the aisle at the bookstore. He asked me, is it any good? I said, yes, it is. And then in my mind, I immediately thought of the qualifications. I thought, well, but I should probably warn you that it's a little bit hokey in parts and also largely plot-driven. And then I remembered who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
It's the king of the pulps. So that I don't need to offer that warning. You're not looking for an existential moment.
No, it just made it sound even better.
And look at the classic old cover illustration.
Yeah, look at
Good
that.
Lord.
That is really cool. I mean, this is just classic mass-market paperback artwork that you just don't get anymore. So that's really awesome. So that's the first thing I got. And the second thing I got, you've all seen before.
Talk about classic cover art.
Yeah, but this one I've never read. I've never read this book. And I'm going on 2 planes tomorrow, and I'm going to be sitting around a couple of airports. And so this is the perfect book for that, this book that I've never read. And that is this, Jaws, by Peter Benchley, which you might have heard of. It's going to be a major motion picture. Yeah. Well, actually, now it's a spectacular motion picture. It's spectacular. So you might have heard of the movie. But how could you pass up, since I've never read it, how can you pass up that classic cover of this book? Number one super thriller. It's a super thriller, a novel of relentless terror.
And that's, of course, lots of people pointed out that the cover is wrong in a number of different ways. The shark is out of proportion. The shark is not a great white on the cover. You're supposed to roll with it, right?
It was hard to find a great white to model for the painting. So they just had to deal with whoever was available. And it was this fella right there.
I always, when I see how big the shark is compared to the woman on the cover, I always think about Hooper's line in the movie where he points at the vandalized billboard and says, look at that billboard. Those proportions are essentially correct. These are not.
So yeah, I'm going to read this in the airport and on the plane tomorrow. And I'm really looking forward to it because, I've been hearing about this book all my life. And it was some kind of, super famous movie or something. So Here you
The
go,
only more
Jaws.
quintessential airport thing you could do was there no Jackie Collins? You could have grabbed
Oh,
a Jackie
actually,
Collins.
there was lots of Jackie Collins. Somehow I didn't pick it up, and I also didn't pick up Airport. There was an old copy of Airport there that probably I should have picked up, but I would rather read Jaws, so here it is. So those two things are mine. Steve picked up one or two things.
I got a bunch of stuff.
You got a couple of things.
I'll try and go through them quickly with your kibitzing. Like this thing, for instance, Arthurian fiction. Vera Chapman. This is her adaptation of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I naturally thought of Tony from An Erudite Adventure, since he loves this story, and actually did a read aloud of it. This is her fantasy adaptation of that. Vera Chapman. This is the only book of hers I ever see, and it's beautifully designed, and it has a cover art by the brothers Hildebrand.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's not the only time they're going to appear in my stack of books. This is, of course, an adaptation of the famous story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, where Arthur and his knights are celebrating, and a giant green man walks in and wants to trade axe blows with anyone brave enough to do it. And Sir Gawain thinks, well, I don't need to worry about how big this guy is because I'm going to cut his head off. And he does. And the guy bends down, picks up his head, and says, I will meet you, and you will take your axe start. And Gawain can't pick up his head and put it back on his shoulders if it's lopped off. But Vera Chapman, she deserves a book of her own. She was a loon. In the nicest possible way, she was a loon. Even by BookTube standards, she would be considered a Tolkien superfan. But she's, I think, a good example. I haven't read this. Oh my God, was this the 70s? I read this when it first came out, 1975. She's a good example, I think, of someone whose life story would be more interesting than anything she wrote. But it's not just a Tony and An Erudite Adventure who will be interested in this. It's David Wiley, because almost all the other books she wrote were Arthurian romances, were Arthurian adaptations. So might be a name worth hunting down. Then a romance. I found this. Can't Hardly Breathe. This is my favorite Gina Showalter. I've read a lot of romances by this author, but this is my favorite one. It's a classic, begrudging, not planning on romance where the young woman is in town trying to bury old memories because her growing up in town was terrible. The local town super hottie bad boy has been out of town for a long time. He comes back into town. He also has lots of baggage. They don't at all think of each other as romantic interests. And I don't have this. I got this from the publisher, but I don't have a copy.
I don't have it either. That's remarkable.
Then I got this set of the old Bantam Sherlock Holmes. I have a couple of these, but this brown set was done forever and ever. And then they reprinted this set with sort of beige covers. I like these better, and I had these forever and ever. No idea where my set went. This is all of Sherlock Holmes, and I was browsing around the used book superstore, and I saw one of these volumes in the mystery section, and then another volume. I looked immediately to see if they had two in the mystery section. They didn't. The other volume was over across the warehouse in the dollar section, so I grabbed them both. These are terrific. There's also they both have the same introduction by Lauren Esselman, which does a lot of credit by John Watson. It's really it is Lauren Esselman, right, that I'm thinking of? Yes. His introduction is mostly about Watson and how Watson's not an idiot. Well worth reading.
I used to have those. They're really good.
They are. All I ever see now are those beige ones. I even have one out in the kitchen, but it's going, along with lots of other things. I found a Picador trade paperback of Underworld by Don DeLillo. There you have the Twin Towers on the cover there. This is his...
Well, surely you have that.
No. I have it as an ebook. I read it when it first came out. I didn't write about it, but everybody else...
Even I have this book.
I thought it was time that I had it, and I've never seen the Picador paperback before. This is one for the dude bros, right? I got in a romance novel for Sarah at the Bookish Knitter. I got in the Green Knight for An Erudite Adventure. This is for the dude bros. Don DeLillo is literally the last dude bro standing. The dude bros don't completely embrace Thomas Pynchon because they get the sense that he's probably really good. That disqualifies him. Well, this starts off with a set piece, And I don't think the novel ever recovers from that. This starts off with a long narrative description of the famous 1951 baseball game between the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants. It's one of the greatest realizations of baseball in fiction. I would rank it up there with the opening chapter of The Given Day by Dennis Lehane, Shoeless Joe, of course, by Kinsella, and a few scenes in Chad Harbach's book. What's it called? Oh my God, he got $5 million for it. Chad Harbach wrote a baseball book, and I'm blanking on the name. It's right over there on the shelf, but I don't remember. It's hard to do baseball well because it's so incredibly boring. But that scene, and you know that scene is a set piece because, well, it's not Picador. His American publisher also brought out that opening section of the book as its own book. So you don't need to drag. He doesn't need to drag you through the lovelorn adventures and the rest of the thing. Okay. Then we have some older books. These are 2 Roman Poets of the Republic and Horus and the Elegiac Poets. This is Bill Sellers was a classicist. He did 3 books. There's Roman Poets of the Republic, Horus, and the Elegiac Poets, and also he did a volume on Augustan poets. The Horus thing, half of this thing is a beautiful, long examination of Horus. I saw this and thought, ooh, I'll take that. But, I thought I was handing it there on the shelf, and I thought, really wish that it had some of his writings on others. And, of course, this was right there. This has a long piece on Catholicism. But lots of other stuff, too. This is classic classicist writing. And you won't find... I use the same rule at this place that I always do. I said, if I would take it at the Brattle, then I'll take it here. The prices weren't bad at all. Mm-hmm. So I grabbed both of these. They only had the 2, not the 3.
So you still don't have the 3rd?
I don't think I do. I don't think I have them here. Okay, then we have my continuing endeavor to buy my way into the good graces of the fantasy community on BookTube, although maybe this isn't the way. Maybe this author is out of favor. I found a hardcover of The Sord of Shara by Terry Brooks, which I never see. I have a mass market paperback and a trade paperback of this, which is odd because I don't like it that much. Not enough to have 3 copies.
Well, you just ruined it.
You want a hardcover because it's illustrated, and it's illustrated by the brothers Hildebrandt. They do the cover.
Very nice.
But they also do. I almost opened right to them. Look at that.
Oh yeah, look at that.
That's the Fellowship of the. Oh wait, sorry. Do you want to be sued? That's most certainly not the Fellowship of the Ring.
That's completely unfamiliar.
But I like the book, and my trade paperback and my mass market would not hold up. If I wanted to look at the illustrations, it wouldn't hold up.
It's a masterpiece. You got to say that so you can get in. And
I don't know
do
if
a read
they think
along.
it is.
And
would it be on my tier ranking?
Once you read the series, you could tier rank them.
I don't know if they think that Shannara is a masterpiece. They might not. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell with a group of people that rank Joe Abercrombie so high. Who knows what they like and don't like. No, I take that back. Dude, don't be mad. I found a copy of Walden, so we're back to the Dude Bros. This has the reason I got it was $1. A lot of books at the used book superstore are $1. I got this mainly because it's not just introduced by Bill McKibben; it's annotated by him. So there'll be lots of secondary stuff here. I doubt I'll keep it. I doubt this will be a Walden that I keep. It was just a really cheap. This was $1. It was a really cheap way to just read a whole bunch of stuff.
You pulled the Dude Bros back in.
Yeah, but I'm about to lose them big time because
sorry, bros.
It's misread. This is a pure example of what I call the pernicious effect of Gina Stander. She's an ogre. She's just absolutely awful, and she's in all of our minds. She lives in our minds rent free, as the saying goes.
She's always lurking, Gina.
This is 3 Fairacre books. Misread wrote 2 famous series of really, really cozy books. Fairacre and Thrush Cross. She did like 20 books in both series. And it's little English country towns with little churches and little fountains in the middle of the square and little shops and little problems and little lawns and little gardens. And
violent death.
No, there's nothing. There's no violent death. You just wish that one of these characters would wade into the little stream by the little brook, and the narrative would suddenly switch to Peter Benchley saying, "The great fish noticed emotion." But no, it doesn't happen. There aren't even leeches. But Gina, see, you've got the cozy little fair-acre right there.
That's
Gina
as
Stander
cozy
loves
as you
these
can
things. Gina, if Michael K. Vaughan is our king of pulps, Gina is our queen of cozy. She loves these things, and she mentions them all the time. And it's what BookTube does. You listen to these people, you start to know and like them.
Mm.
You have comfortably been dismissing a book or another that they like, and then all of a sudden, the next time you see it, you say, "Can I comfortably dismiss that anymore? Can I do it? How many people have you won over?" No, it's more than that. Even in that, just a couple of videos ago, when you stuck up for giant monster toads, how many comments have we got so far from people saying, "I'm on Team Toad"?
Everybody's on Team Toad.
It happens with everybody. It even happens with Gina Stander. It happens with everybody. If you watch a booktuber and you are devoted to their channel and they love something, you're going to think about it. You're going to think about it again. And this was right there for $1.
That's actually Gina's neighborhood.
Yes,
right
it's
there.
actually Gina's neighborhood. I mean, there's nothing. And also, it's been a long time since I read a misread book. And listening, Gina Stander never shuts up about them. And when I listen to her talk about them, I'm always sort of nagged by remembering that there is more going on in these books than just cozy. There's a little bit of the main, at least for the Fairacre books, the main narrative focus is a pretty sharp person. A person she's got her share of jagged edges. She's not just all sweetness and light. So it could very well be that I will reread these and like them. And then I'll have egg on my face. I'll Gina Stander egg on my face. And then the final one here is this thing. Collection of John le Carré's letters, which I loved this volume. I got it and got rid of it 2 years ago. I think it was placed very highly on that year's Steve Reed's year-end best nonfiction list. Great big thing. A perfectly reasonable price. I went just by the Brattle rule at the used book superstore. If I saw something and I would have grabbed it at the Brattle at any price, I grabbed it here at any price. Instead of thinking, well, if I wait 20 years, will I see that on the dollar tables? No, I just grabbed it. This is really good. Letter collections. First of all, they're a dying thing. No writers that are working today will have letter collections. So this is a kind of book that has existed for 400 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, and is going to die in our lifetimes. But also, I mean, these things can be hit or miss, but it's not hit or miss depending on the mood. It's hit or miss depending on the letter writer. It's been my experience that a good letter writer is always good, no matter who they're writing to, no matter when, in haste, at leisure. So what you'd have to do is just find a letter writer you really like, and then you'll be all set for 1,000 pages.
In the future, it's just going to be, emails. Yeah. The emails of whoever, or the texts.
And no one, I mean, when's the first email that you sent? Be in the 1980s, right?
Well, it would be in the 1990s.
The 1990s.
Yeah.
Okay. And would it be safe for me to assume? I bet all of you are the same way. I bet at least the solid first decade of emails that you sent are totally unrecoverable.
Oh no, I archived all of mine for their historical importance. No, they're all gone.
I've written probably millions of emails in my life, and they're
emails disappear.
So you got to figure, no authors. The authors aren't right. This is full of letters to and from other writers. C.P. Snow, his publishers. Nobody writes letters anymore. So
it's weird to think about that. Letters just don't exist.
Yeah, they don't.
And they
exist.
were such a huge part of life.
They were a huge part of my life. Every day started off with that. And those are out. Those letters, I assume, most of them, some of them are out there somewhere. If you wanted to. If I were to become infamous for some reason, maybe killed a president, then suddenly people who have a box of...
Hoping for infamy.
Yes, I could be... I don't think I'm going to do it. It requires putting on pants.
Yeah,
usually it does.
He just never does that. It's weird.
But this is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I would say, if I had to temper my recommendation, I would say don't really bother with this unless you like Le Carré as a writer. So if you've read his books, you should read his books. But if you haven't read his books, probably you wouldn't care about this. But if you have read his books, or if you're interested, for instance, in mid 20th century literary world, which he was begrudgingly a part of because he was a superstar, you'll love this. Absolutely love it. I was happy to find it. So there you go. That was our used book super haul. You only let me get you 2 books.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I could have got.
They
a
were
lot
good
more.
ones, though. They were good ones.
They are good ones. They are really good ones. But I could have pressed to get him more and just said, you don't have to worry about your luggage. I'll mail them to you. But every day, every minute here, the milk crate full of David Murphy's books is just staring at me. And so when I say, if you get these for you, I'll gladly box them up and mail them to you, I am clearly lying. There's a box of books over there. It's been here for months. So, I would just pull the same trick that I'm pulling on David. I would just hold on to them, hoping that I can make you come back. Because you're not going to have any more Michael K. Vaughan videos. He's leaving in the morning.
Yeah, the next time you see me, I'll be at the stately Vaughan Manor, properly dressed and shaved. Probably.
I have mentioned on this channel many times before that I get weirdly, sappily sad when guests leave.
Not this time, though.
It's been pretty hellish. But even so, I bet it happens. So in addition to saying goodbye to Michael K. Vaughan on this channel, all of you should probably batten down the hatches for a Steve stream tomorrow. I think that's the only thing that's going to cheer me up. Because he's going to leave. My surly houseboy is going to leave. It's going to be raining. I'm going to be stuck here with my fugly little dog. I try not to think about it. But anyway, it was a wonderful day. So there you go. A book haul. You managed to add a couple of titles without breaking the book buying ban.
It's amazing.
So we'll wrap this up for now. And when you see us next, we will be in our normal locations. You will be seeing the Bean. And you will be serenaded by a bunch of nervous little dogs who scream at everything. Great. Well, we'll see you soon, BookTube.